Ladies and gentlemen, with no further introduction needed, please join me in welcoming Congressman Ron Paul.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Looks like the campaign goes on. Wonderful. I really want to thank you for coming because I understand you took great risk in coming here. Your name may be on a list. You may have had your picture taken, so I realize that you had to take that type of risk to make it here, but I deeply appreciate that. It's very nice that you came, but hopefully we will remain patriotic and peaceful and eventually show that the opposition, those who would like to curtail our activities, are really the problem that we face in this country. You know, during one of the debates, the subject of torture came up, and some of you may recall, but they wouldn't call it torture. They said that it was enhanced interrogation technique. And I remember referring to it. I said, well, that sort of sounds like 1984 newspeak when you want to call it something else. But the new administration has a new term, too. It's a new term they've come up with, overseas contingency operation. That's what is war. That is what they call war. Another newspeak term. So this is the kind of thing that we have to put up with. If they can change words, they try to change values as well. But, you know, I think it's so interesting that, you know, so many of these banks and mortgage companies and credit card companies, they're all going bankrupt. But have you ever thought about it? Guess who have been ruling the day on your credit score? These are the people who have been writing all these credit scores for all of us, and they're the ones that have had the greatest deal of trouble. And, of course, those people who write these credit scores have never made a mistake or confused anybody's credit. So eventually, though, we have to get people back to thinking about what is true and proper. And matter of fact, have become more encouraged. Of course, haven't been on a speaking engagement like this since last September. We had that little rally, you know, up in Minneapolis. 12,000 people showed up. Thank you. Many of you were there. And so this, to me, is a continuation. Somebody said, well, when did you start the Campaign for Liberty? Well, the Campaign for Liberty organization was started, last summer. But the Campaign for Liberty, as far as I'm concerned, for myself, started in 1974, the first time I ran for Congress. And that campaign will continue as it has been for so many of you, but I think that there's no doubt that the momentum is picking up. We haven't reformed Washington yet, but our time is coming. We will reform Washington. That is our goal. But there's a different atmosphere, there's no doubt. My life has changed because I never realized how many of you were out there. I have, when it comes to TV interviews and even in the House and on the floor and different places, there's more credibility. But the credibility comes for two reasons. Because I believe absolutely the views are correct, and because of you, because there's enough people now to show that we are a significant number and we will play a role in what's going to happen to this country. Now, it may get discouraging because there will be elections and we won't have the 51%. But if you understand what true revolutions are all about, you don't have to deal in those precise numbers. Because true revolutions come about by a small number of people, a dedicated number of people, people who understand, who believe in something. Then 3 or 5 or 6% of the country can change it because others are willing to come. And the time is ripe because we're in big trouble on our foreign policy, big trouble financially, monetarily, And people now are looking for the answers, and I am totally convinced that we can find our answers in what we're doing and in just following the United States Constitution. Our economy currently is in shambles, and it was, as you saw in the viewpoint, many had predicted it. Not only I who had been talking about it, but it was a predictable event because of the nature of the monetary system. We had a financial house of cards, and we knew it, and we knew that house of cards would come down. That house of cards had been being built since 1971. Major events in our history, recent history, was the formation of the Bretton Woods Agreement in 1944, and that was a pseudo-gold exchange standard where the dollar was supposed to be golden rule. It would be always exchangeable at $35 an ounce. Well, it didn't take too long for the Federal Reserve to get ahead of itself and print too much money where it was obviously unbacked anymore at $35 an ounce. That, as was predicted even when it was established in 1944, came to an end precipitously on August 15th, 1971. And the world then was willing at that time to accept the idea that, well, maybe just the paper dollar would work. And at that time, many predicted that it wouldn't work. It probably worked longer than a lot of us believed it would work. But because it lasted longer than we expected, the bubble got bigger. And that, of course, is why this huge international, worldwide house of cards, the financial system, came crashing down. And if you look at the statistics now, the statistics are overwhelming how rapidly this has come. But you know about building a fragile house on an unsound foundation. Well, the foundation isn't very good either. The house has come down, and the only foundation it was built on was sand, and that sand was the U.S. dollar. And the dollar is doomed. The dollar can't be revived unless all of a sudden we come to our senses, stop spending, balance the budget, bring our troops home, and pay down our debt, get rid of the income tax, and let people go back to work. In the past, when countries have suffered with inflation, and what most people refer to as inflation is somewhat incorrect, they think about prices going up. That is a consequence of inflation. Inflation is when the government or a Federal Reserve System or central bank increases the money supply. But when the prices go up, the people respond and they say, there's not enough money. Even in this pseudo-deflationary period, we don't have deflation because the money supply is skyrocketing. It's just that there's deflation in the financial instruments because the stock values have gone down, the house values have gone down. But even under those conditions, the cry is always for there's not enough money. And what have we done? Essentially in these last 2 years, there was way too much inflation before that, and we have just literally pumped the money out there to try to hold this bubble together, but it's not put and hasn't come back. Now, this situation is very risky, not only financially for all of us. How do you survive when a financial system breaks down? How many people have lost in the stock market and the value of their houses? That is very dangerous. But the real reason that I get concerned about it is because of the economic chaos that generally comes with a financial crisis and a monetary crisis is the threat to our liberties. And that is what we should be concerned about. We want a sound monetary system, a sound economic system, because we want to protect every single one of us, our individual liberty. That is our goal.